welcome into the Mountaineers Now Postgame show. I'm Skylar Callen. Joined with me is Christopher Hall. West Virginia falling 76 to 72 to number 15 TCU on the road tonight, and not able to get that season sweep over the Horned Frogs. So let's dive right into the numbers. West Virginia shooting 25 of 57 from the field, 6 of 22 from three-point land, 10 turnovers. Not a high number, but there were some very costly turnovers in that mix. Your top performers of the night, Eric Stevenson, 17 points. Not as efficient shooting the ball, though. 6 of 17 from the field, 1 of 6 from three. And then Damian Baugh and Shahada Wells each going for 16 points for the Horned Frogs. So, Chris, 76-72. Just, it felt like West Virginia just dug themselves a hole, like Huggins said in his post-game interview with Tony Caridi just a few moments ago, and were never able to get out of it. Defensively, I thought it was arguably their worst performance of the year.
Yeah, defensively, 48, gave up 48 points in the paint. That was pretty much the story. Layup after layup, drive after drive. I think PC had 13 or 14 layups in the first half. So, poor effort to start. You know, you're 2-6 in league play. You have a chance with their leading scorer out, and you just come out flat. Don't even look like you want to be there. You mentioned Huggins post game, like you said, this is their final chance. What are you waiting on? It's the end of January. You shouldn't have to be told to stay in front of your guy. You shouldn't have to be told to do back to effect on. It's the second time you played them. So it just no killer instinct, nothing. We're heading into February. You thought they were turning it around, and they just came out like they were supposed to just win, show up and win. And I don't get it because after every post game, everything they know they have to come out every night and play. So why would it tonight be any different? Because Miles Jr. was out. I just don't understand the mentality of this group. It makes zero sense to come out like that. And the defensive effort was just so bad. How do you give up that many? Beyond.
I mean, and it's really, I think, for the fans, really frustrating because it seems like they go through these spurts where it looks like they're starting to figure it out and kind of turn the corner, and then they put up a performance like this, and you start to think like, well, dang, can they even win 2 or 3 more games in the rest of the schedule? And then they may start to win 1 or 2 games again, and the same thing happens. It's always a setback. There's a big consistency problem with this team, specifically, and I don't like to single anybody out, but I mean, tonight, Jimmy Bell, I mean, this was a guy that really had his way with TCU the last time. And Eddie Lampkin, who the commentators love to talk about on ESPN for seemingly the entire game, um, was playing essentially on one leg, and Jimmy Bell was a no-show. I mean, that's a big problem.
Yeah, would be very curious to hear his take on that. I'm sure they were clutch and holding, but he's big enough to play through it. I'm sure it gets frustrating. We dealt with it there, Cole. I mean, that kid was just getting beat up every single night when he gets the whistle. You see it a lot. It seems like the West Virginia bigs don't get the same benefit as a lot of the other bigs around the league. But it's something, that's obviously with a very pair of glasses on, just seeing it from a West Virginia angle. I'm sure a lot of bigs around the league feel like that. So it's nothing that no one else is dealing with. Again, we're heading into February. These are things that you shouldn't have to deal with going into February. I understand it's his first year playing at this level, and maybe he has a right to have a game. But when you go down the list of all the seniors on this team, there's no excuse for that. I mean, that's you I don't even know what else to say other than when you give up that bad of an effort, like where are you at mentally? Like you have everything. You have postseason still right in front of you. You don't need to win out, but you have a chance to steal one on the road with the leading score out, and that's the effort you put in. Um, man, I mean, Huggins was so mad after the game, he wasn't even seem mad. I
Yeah.
mean, no, he's mad. So, I mean, I what you do as a coach at this point. Like, these are seniors. I get it that, the AAU has kind of killed, the fundamentals of basketball, and we see this team revert to that. They think that they can take their man one-on-one with just a screen, and it just fails miserably 10% of the time, and they still want to do it. But I don't understand that mentality. I don't understand the mentality of not playing on the offense. And I didn't understand the mentality of trying to feed Jimmy more down low early on when he had the size advantage. Like I don't understand their mentality at all. Like it's not coming from us, so I don't know what they're doing in times like this. All you can chalk it up to is you see 48 points in the paint. This was a team they destroyed on the boards last time, but and it was evened out this game, and it felt like they were 20 points the margin below TCU. And like they just again, I don't understand this going in.
Yeah, and the defense, I kind of want to really talk about that because I mean, when we're talking about how bad this was, it wasn't just, I guess the I don't know. To me, it was a lot of a lack of effort and a lack of focus, and it seemed like there was also a whole lot of a lack of miscommunication or a whole lot of a lack of communication as well because there was so many guys that were left open, wide open in the paint, where guys were just standing there watching them go by, thinking they had help, and there was nobody there. Or there was times where TCU let the ball roll up the court and they just throw the ball as soon as they pick it up, and nobody was standing there in the paint. It was an easy layup. Not even a full second went off the shot clock. So it's just again, like you said, you got to feel worried. I mean, at this point, if you're a West Virginia fan, are you starting to feel a little panicked because you're halfway through conference play, you're 2-7. There's, I think, coming into this one, the 7 of the last 10 games were against ranked teams. I mean, you got to feel a little worried about right now about where things stand.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the worry comes from it just goes back to lack of energy to start the game. That should have been a game if they went in there, dominated from the beginning, take the air out of them, and coast to a victory. They had their leading scorer out. It
Yeah.
wouldn't have taken much to knock them out, and they did. They, I, I think that's just the most frustrating thing. You don't. There's no awareness. You talk about communication, and again, there's a bunch of seniors on this. Like this should not happen at all.
No.
So don't know where their heads at, and see it in West Virginia, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever. They, they get a little bit of prosperity. They didn't even make the rankings, but they beat Auburn, and all of a sudden they come out the next game thinking they just have to show up. And I don't know if Brent Baker has to get a new sports psychologist in there so they can handle just
Yeah, that's a good point.
because we saw it during Javon Carter when they would get up in the rankings, they would lose to a team they shouldn't lose because they just showed up and thought they could win. I don't know where this arrogance comes from. And Morgantown, they never won a national championship. It's been over a decade since they've been in the Final Four, so I don't know what beating an overrated Auburn team that hadn't beat anybody Saturday, and you had to scrape out a win after winning by 15. I don't know where that arrogance comes from, and it was quite evident when shooting, how they started shooting. They went through a stretch where they went 1 of 7 in the first half, and you're
Yeah.
just standing waiting for the ball because you think you're going to make everything that you can shoot. It's terrible mindset. Terrible mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I
No,
think that the offense at times there were so many rush shots. There was 4 shots. We saw Stevenson take a couple rush shots. We saw Seth Wilson force up a couple shots. They're not even running offense. And I know this has been a problem, and fans will say, this has been a problem for years. And I don't know if I could really argue with that, but I mean, tonight was just glaring. I mean, there was way too much dribbling, not enough motion, not enough movement, and it just felt like the ball was just sticking for over half of the shot clock. If you have 2 passes with only 10 shots or 10 seconds left on the shot clock, you're probably not going to get a good looking shot. So I don't know what the whole situation is with why this team doesn't like to run offense. But again, like we've said before, you could probably ask that about any West Virginia team over the last decade about that end of the floor. But the one thing I do want to ask before we get off here is it seems like, and you brought up Javon Carter, and this is the perfect segue for that. During those years, even though they would maybe occasionally lose a game to a team they shouldn't lose to, it felt like they were always in the game. They always had some sort of mindset where Javon, Dax, those types of guys, Nate Adrian, they were not going to give up, and they were going to continue to fight all the way to the end, be a scrappy bunch, and they didn't put up with any BS. Do you feel like this team lacks that severely? Because, and not just this team, really ever since then, because I don't think we've seen a West Virginia team have that bulldog kind of mentality since JC and that group left.
And it starts with leadership. We all thought Emmett might be that guy to keep guys dive on loose balls, keep them motivated. He looks like another guy that's just sitting out there power.
Yeah.
Fine. You control everything. Right, you're a starter. You can play 40 minutes if you want. All you have to do is play. So, lack of leadership. You could say Deuce had that in him, but I think some of the characters around him kind of kept them from being better than what they should have been that season. I mean, Deuce was a killer, and he did it.
Yeah.
You can say Stevenson has that killer mentality. He's just not good enough. I mean, he's not going
His
to.
highs are too high and his lows are too low.
He's not going to beat you off the grip. He needs to be a catch and shoot guy, and really that needs to be Huggins' priority this offseason. They got Jose Perez. We don't know what he can do at this. They got to find a point guard. You got 2 point guards standing out there dribbling. Trying to dribble around a double team that's open for the split, and then you have enough. Like, they don't recognize basic fundamentals of basketball. And I would almost love to be in the film room to hear what Huggins has to say. Like, how do you not know this? This is 5 years into your career. How do you recognize the base? You don't have to run offense to know this. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy to me. Like, they ran offense and were missing open shots. So that's your fault. But then you're going to try to create offense on your own and you're missing open shots. Like, again, it just the logic behind these kids' thinking blows me away because I don't understand where it's coming from.
I don't either. I mean, TCU, I give them credit because they were able to find a way without their leading scorer, arguably one of the best players in the Big 12. But at the end of the day, I don't know that was so much of them overcoming that situation more than it was West Virginia just not playing well at all. Because I think WVU just did not play anywhere near their standard on either side of the ball. And that's why they ended up losing this game. So I don't know where they go from here. They go back home for 2 very important games. And I mean, you could probably say very winnable games. Iowa State's shown that they can be vulnerable.
They're all winnable.
They're all winnable, but they're also all losables. Life in the Big 12.
And they would ball and dribble for 20 seconds and then pull up for a 30-40 footer.
So there you have it. West Virginia again falling it to TCU 76-72. They're now 13-9 on the season, 2-7 in Big 12 play. That'll do it for us tonight. We'll be back here when West Virginia hosts Oklahoma at 8 o'clock. That game, I believe, is set to tip off on ESPN2. So we'll have the Mountaineers Now post-game show after that. Another late tip. For Christopher Hall, I'm Skylar Callahan. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now and follow us on Twitter at Mountaineers Now. Thank you guys, and we'll see you guys Saturday.